The jaguar is the most lethal predator in the Americas, but if someone were to move this animal to the savannah, it would probably be eaten by a crocodile, squashed by an elephant, or killed by a lion. In its own realm, the MMA world has witnessed elite fighters who turned into superstars by bulldozing through opposition in their respective organizations before transitioning to other promotions.
He has done it! It is all over!
Only to be brutally annihilated.
Might be tighter. There's the top! Brian T. City Ortega!
In most cases, this is due to the heightened level of competition. But in some instances, well, maybe bad luck?
Anderson. Oh, he got hit! Look at the finish it!
Let's revisit the 10 biggest MMA stars who were defeated in other promotions. 10. Ben Askren. By incorporating his Olympic-level wrestling, Ben Askren dominated fellow competitors in the Bellator and one organization for years.
Oh, that's it! Let's go! And an arm triangle! Oh, it up, triangle! Suddenly jumped in on us.
Everyone knew his strategy, but nobody could stop the takedowns and the relentless wrestling pressure that Funky applied.
Head every single time.
By November 2017, Ben Askren had secured welterweight titles in both promotions, with 18 unfortunate opponents tasting the bitterness of defeat at the hands of the American. Even elite competitors like Douglas Lima
continues, he wins a lopsided, unanimous decision.
Andrei Koreshkov and Shinya Aoki stood no chance against Askren's superior wrestling. Upon signing with the UFC, Funky boasted an 18-0 undefeated record, aiming to dominate in the big league. His UFC debut against Robbie Lawler saw Lawler launching bombs at Ben's head.
Robbie Lawler! He hurt him with that dump! He hurt him with that jump!
Yet the wrestler somehow survived and won the bout via bulldog choke.
He's out! He's out! He's out! Ben Askren! He's out!
However, things took a downturn from there. In the next bout against Jorge Masvidal, Askren attempted his usual strategy of shooting for a takedown, but was intercepted by a vicious flying knee.
In UFC history,
he was out immediately,
Resulting in the fastest knockout in UFC history at 5 seconds. In the subsequent match against Damian Maia, the Brazilian deprived Ben of oxygen in the third round, marking his second consecutive loss.
Damian Maia with the rear naked choke!
just one tap.
There it is, and he's out.
Since then, Ben Askren hasn't competed. 9. Sage Northcutt. Sage Northcutt is the kind of guy your girlfriend tells you not to worry about. He's blonde, handsome, and built like a Greek god. When he made his UFC debut in 2015, Sage was only 19 years old. He was matched against Francisco Trevino, an MMA veteran with a solid record of 12-1 at the time. However, when Northcutt started showering him with punches and elbows,
He hurt him. Yep.
Trevino moved over it and said no mas.
Sage Northcutt! Just!
Sage had a solid 6-2 run in the UFC, but then he tried to showcase his skills in ONE, a promotion based in Asia. On May 17, 2019, the American was matched against Cosmo Alexandre, a seasoned kickboxer with over 90 kickboxing bouts under his belt. The inexperienced fighter learned a valuable lesson about why you should never go toe-to-toe against an elite striker. When Alexandre launched a nuclear right hand that made Northcutt kiss the canvas instantly.
What? Look at this right hand, just comes over the top. You give Cosmo one minor opening and he will bust through it, and that's exactly what...
The blow was so powerful that it fractured Sage's skull. It was questionable whether the American would ever fight again. Thankfully for him, after 4 years of recovery, Northcutt returned in May 2023, winning via heel hook submission against Ahmed Mushtaba.
And about coming back off the loss. Wow!
Gonna finish, there it is! Super Sage Northcutt!
8. Gilbert Melendez. Gilbert Melendez was the lightweight king of Strikeforce who secured the lightweight belt in 2006 after a closely contested fight against Clay Guida. From 2009 to 2012, El Nino embarked on a 7-fight winning streak with the organization. During that period, Melendez dominated athletes like Josh Thompson, Shinya Aoki, and Jorge Masvidal. Yeah, the future BMF before signing with the UFC in 2013. The Strikeforce champ received an immediate title shot against Benson Henderson, but lost the fight via close split decision.
Still the undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world.
After After delivering a fighting spectacle against Diego Sanchez next and winning the bout convincingly,
Swing to the finish!
Oh my God!
Unbelievable!
Oh my God!
it seemed that El Nino would have a run for the belt, but then, well, he was choked out by Anthony Pettis,
He mounted. He got it. Anthony Pettis.
defeated by Eddie Alvarez on the judges' scores,
Alvarez!
and dominated by Edson Barboza.
Edson Jr. Barbosa!
In the fight against the hardest-hitting 145er in the division, Jeremy Stevens,
Marcus Davis. Wow.
Who the fuck is that guy? Who the fuck is that? No damn well who I am. Who the fuck is that?
Gilbert got his legs destroyed.
Oh man.
Finally, on July 6, 2019, Arnold Allen showed El Nino why the sport belongs to the youngsters. 7. Chuck Liddell. During the 2000s, the Iceman was a dominant force in the UFC, whose fighting style was a puzzle for many. By June 6, 2003, the Iceman had a successful run in the UFC,
Winning a fighter as we have.
boasting a 12-2 record before entering the Pride 2003 Middleweight Grand Prix tournament as the official UFC representative. Although he knocked out Alistair Overeem in the first round,
2 lights, 3 lights, and now,
his second bout was far from impressive. In the semifinals, he was set to lock horns with the heavy hitter Quinton Jackson. Liddell landed some shots as he tried to figure out the right distance, but Jackson returned with fire, shaking Liddell quite a few times. As the second round went on, Liddell's gas tank was running low, and he was taken down, where Rampage delivered a heavy cargo of ground and pound bombs.
Last fight I lost, I get my chance to avenge it.
Chuck's corner decided to stop the fight by throwing in the towel to ensure their fighter could live to fight another day. The Iceman returned to the UFC, where he kept his dominance, but his Pride FC journey will always remain a painful topic for the American. 6. Mauricio Rua. During the Pride FC era, Shogun Rua was a dominant champion who treated the opponents like a soccer player treating a ball, blasting them with soccer kicks and relentless assaults. Before signing with the UFC, the Brazilian was 12-2.
Another soccer kick. How much more is the referee going to allow? Mauricio Shogun came here to electro.
Holding notable victories over legends like Quinton Jackson,
Yeah, this is the end of the fight. Oh!
Mauricio.
Alistair Overeem,
And it is over. Shogun.
Ricardo Arona,
Unbelievable.
and Kevin Randleman. However, his UFC story was not that great, to say the least. His promotional debut was spoiled by Forrest Griffin, who pulled an upset by strangling the newcomer.
And really,
And although he managed to win the belt, his destiny as a champ was short-lived, as John Jones put one of the most brutal beatings on him in championship fights.
the body, and it is all over. John.
In the next 8 bouts, Shogun Rua went 3-5 in the UFC, including being choked out by the largest arms in Oregon, Chael Sonnen,
And Chael had it absolutely perfectly.
and suffering tough TKO losses to Dan Henderson and Ovin St. Pro. After suffering 3 losses in a row, the Brazilian legend finally called it a career in 2023. 5. Demetrius Johnson. Ever since winning the flyweight UFC title against Joseph Benavidez on September 22, 2012,
Demetrius Johnson by split decision.
the Mighty Mouse has been on a killing spree, destroying opposition without much resistance. By pulling off jaw-dropping KOs and crafty submissions and convincingly defeating the best of the division, Demetrius Johnson was widely considered one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. After losing a controversial split decision victory against Henry Cejudo in 2018,
Now Cejudo's got to be thinking Johnson's outscoring. This is clearly outscoring.
the Mighty Mouse decided to try his luck somewhere else. He signed with one and went on a 3-fight winning streak before he was matched against Adriano Moraes, a BJJ black belt and submission wizard. While the Mighty Mouse experienced how it feels being KO'd for the first time in his career,
DJ's hurt. It's good night, Irene.
when Moraes launched a flying knee rocket that sent the American to oblivion.
Gold on his back. Let's go to Tom Lau to make it all official.
Demetrius Johnson avenged his loss by winning the next 2 bouts against Adriano Moraes convincingly. Who would have thought that the greatest flyweight of all time would experience such a loss outside the UFC? 4. Rory MacDonald. Rory MacDonald was one of the most promising prospects in the UFC. Some believed he could be the next GSP. The Canadian amassed an 18-4 record with the UFC, securing victories against MMA royalties such as Nate Diaz, BJ Penn, Damian Maia, and Tyron Woodley. Additionally, he engaged in the Fight of the Year against Robbie Lawler in 2015, a bout later recognized as a UFC Hall of Fame fight.
And he just couldn't take the pain anymore.
When he moved to Bellator and won the welterweight title against Douglas Lima, it appeared the organization had a new sheriff in town. Well, it lasted until Gegard Mousasi bounced his head off the canvas like a pinball machine.
He does everything that Rory MacDonald does, and sometimes just a little bit better with more.
Which was an overture to losing 5 of his next 9 fights before deciding to hang up the gloves in 2022. 3. Alistair Overeem. Before the USADA era, Alistair Overeem was built like a tank, looking like the Incredible Hulk on steroids.
Alistair Overeem at home!
He wasn't only looking intimidating, he was knocking people out to the shadow realm. The former K1 champion, with notable victories over Vitor Belfort, Mark Hunt, and Fabricio Verdum, decided to sign with the UFC in 2011, where he was welcomed by Brock Lesnar. The Dutch fighter had an impressive debut against Lesnar. But this is where his career took a dark turn. He was brutally KO'd by Antonio Silva and front kick to the face by Travis Brown. He won a unanimous decision victory against Frank Mir next, only to be TKO'd in the next bout against Ben Rothwell. The kickboxer had some significant victories in his UFC career, but will mostly be remembered as being brutally KO'd by Stipe Miocic.
Remains the heavyweight.
Francis Ngannou.
Matchup with Ngannou. Down goes the Reem.
And Jairzinho Rozenstruik.
No.
2. Eddie Alvarez. The Underground King is one of the best MMA lightweights globally, having had a successful run in Dream and Bellator, as well as in the UFC, where he held the lightweight championship. Although he was dethroned by Conor McGregor, he redeemed himself with a spectacular victory over Justin Gaethje and engaged in unforgettable battles against Dustin Poirier. Upon signing with ONE, many expected Eddie to dominate in the new organization. However, he faced a tough beginning, getting viciously knocked out by Timofey Nostyukin in the first round of his promotional debut. The Underground King rebounded with a victory against Edward Folayang. But in his most recent bout, he was dominated by Akre Yoon, resulting in a unanimous decision loss. 1. Mirko Cro Cop. Right leg hospital.
Oh, and that leg kick!
Left leg cemetery.
Oh no!
Mirko Cro Cop is arguably the scariest striker in MMA during the 2000s, renowned for his deadly high kick knockouts for the ages. He found success in both K1 and Pride, where he became the 2006 Pride Openweight Grand Prix champion. During his run, the Croatian turned the lights off on Igor Vovchanchyn, Alexander Emelianenko, Josh Barnett, Mark Coleman, and Wanderlei Silva, and engaged in the fight of the decade with Fedor Emelianenko. However, when he signed with the UFC, Gabriel Gonzaga gave him a taste of his own medicine. A high kick KO that left the Croatian flattened on the floor. Mirko lost the subsequent bout against Cheick Kongo and was later knocked out by Junior Dos Santos, Frank Mir, Brendan Schaub, and Roy Nelson. The King of Pride may not have found the same success in the UFC, but he'll always be remembered as one of the scariest knockout artists of his generation. These were the 10 MMA stars who had impressive careers in various promotions but faced reality checks when transitioning to different organizations, experiencing defeats that left an indelible mark on their legacies. Thank you so much for tuning in to watch this video, fight fans, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one.